Hi, and thanks for tuning in to the 2026 Dirtbike Magazine 250 Off-Road Shootout. These are the closed course cross-country 250 four-strokes. The Honda CRF250RX, the Kawasaki KX250X, the KTM 250XCF, the Triumph TF250C, and the Yamaha YZ250FX. They're all off-road bikes that are on the same page as their motocross counterparts. For the most part, they use the same components, the same designs, even the same frames and engines. But each manufacturer has concocted its own recipe for the transition to off-road. There are about 9 generally accepted areas that a manufacturer might alter to transition from MX to off-road competition: the suspension, fuel capacity, gearbox, power delivery, rear wheel size, tires, kickstand, guards, chain. But not all of these bikes have received attention in every area. Beyond that, they have different attributes that point them in slightly different areas. It's important to remember that these are race bikes by design. They aren't EPA approved as off-road bikes. They aren't especially quiet, and they aren't made with trail riding in mind. Many of these manufacturers have other models that serve that market. Here then is how they perform in the competition world. Let's look at the Honda CRF250RX first. Honda has generally kept the CRF250RX in lockstep with the 250R. It gets the same updates at the same time, so it got a new chassis in 2025. It has the following off-road features: off-road engine mapping, off-road suspension settings, Dunlop AT81 tires, an 18-inch rear wheel, 2.1 gallons of fuel capacity, handguards, a skid plate, an O-ring chain, and a kickstand. It uses the same gearbox as the MX bike. Its strongest point is its low-end power. The Honda has more low-end power than any of the other bikes, and it also has a fairly smooth power delivery. The 3 maps allow a small amount of versatility. The aggressive one, as indicated by 3 flashes, is pretty much the same as the MX bike. The Honda also has excellent steering in tight canyons. The suspension is most at home at moderately high speed. The brakes are good, and noise is not a big factor. The Honda also has the lowest price by far. For weak points, the Honda's overall handling is a little nervous at high speed. It also feels like a very large bike, although this might be based on visual clues from the oddly shaped black fuel tank. It's actually quite light at 229 pounds without fuel. The MX gearbox is decent for off-road racing, although there's a big gap from second to third. It lacks a hydraulic clutch, which is a bigger liability off-road than it would be in motocross. The bottom line? Well, the Honda RX might even be a better motocross bike for novices and beginners than the MX version. It has cushier suspension and smoother power. Off-road, its strongest area is fast woods, cross-country racing, where its low-end power is a big advantage. As a trail bike, it's good, but for that market, we still wish Honda would bring back the CRF250X, which was discontinued long ago. Now let's look at the Kawasaki KX250X. It was almost entirely redesigned in 2025, just like the motocross bike. The frame was new, the bodywork was new, and the motor got numerous changes. The bike also gained compatibility with the new Kawasaki Rideology smartphone app. For the off-road makeover, Kawasaki went bare bones. It has off-road suspension, an 18-inch rear wheel, Dunlop Geomax AT81 tires, a kickstand, and an O-ring chain. It does not have any changes to the power delivery, the fuel capacity, gear ratios, or handguards. For strong points, the Kawasaki has excellent off-road suspension. It works well at medium to high speeds and still manages to pick up rocks and square edges at low speed. It also has excellent stability, perhaps the best of the bunch. The low end power is good, the hydraulic clutch is excellent, and it has a very light pool. And this is the only bike with adjustable foot peg height. For weak points, we have to say that Kawasaki put a very superficial effort into the off-road conversion. The 1.6 gallon fuel capacity is crippling, and the lack of handguards is annoying. It also has the loudest exhaust note, and at 236 pounds, it is the heaviest despite the lack of off-road equipment. Bottom line, in pure performance, the KX250X is a great off-road race bike. The power is smooth, the suspension is good, and the outright horsepower is competitive. Even the motocross-based 5-speed gearbox works well in most situations. It's a little unfinished. You have to buy a larger fuel tank and handguards before you even bring the bike home. Now we have the KTM 250XCF. KTM has updated the 250XCF motor in lockstep with the 250SXF motocross bike, but neither one is changed for 2026. Of all the bikes here, this one and the Yamaha have the most off-road features to separate them from the motocross models. The KTM has a 6-speed wide ratio gearbox, a dedicated off-road exact fork with coil springs, softer rear suspension, a 2.2 gallon fuel tank, an 18-inch rear wheel, Dunlop AT82 tires, a kickstand, handguards, a skid plate, and an O-ring chain. It does not have special off-road mapping. For strong points, overall handling is excellent in almost any off-road setting. The KTM is easy to turn and doesn't sacrifice stability at speed. The KTM also produces excellent power in the middle and on top. As a bonus, it also has great power delivery down low. The 6th gear is a benefit for trail riders, and the low first gear can be useful even in racing. The hydraulic clutch is excellent, as are the brakes. The fuel tank is translucent, making for a quick visual gas check, and the suspension, especially the fork, is excellent. For weak points, we have to say the two on-the-fly mapping options are a little bit too similar to be of use in different environments. If you want more maps, you have to pay extra for the connectivity unit off-road. The KTM's price is already far higher than any of the others, and we don't care for the gas cap or radiator cap. Bottom line, KTM is more invested in the off-road world than any of the other manufacturers, and it shows. All of the details are worked out, it's a proven race winner, and a surprisingly good trail bike. As a side note, the KTM 250 XCF is holding the place for the very similar Gas EX250F, which isn't available as a 2026 model, but is expected back soon. Next up, the Triumph TF250C. Triumph went all in for 2026, releasing two off-road 250 four-strokes. This one is the TF250C, which is designed to be the more race-oriented of the two. Following the pattern, it is closely related to the MX bike, but with these differences: a 2.2-gallon fuel tank, off-road suspension settings, handguards, a skid plate, an O-ring chain, an 18-inch rear wheel, Dunlop AT82 tires, and a kickstand. The gearbox, mapping, and power delivery are all the same as the motocross bike. Its strong points start with overall handling, which is perfect for off-road use with excellent stability. The suspension is also strong in low and medium speed terrain, and the Triumph is the lightest of these 5 bikes at 228 pounds without fuel as measured on our scale. The power delivery is exactly the same as that of the MX version and very powerful, but is still very smooth. Detailing is well thought out, from the translucent fuel tank to the skid plate, which extends rearward to protect the linkage. For weak points, we think that the throttle response is a little soft down low and the gearbox is gappy. Even though Triumph offers smartphone engine tuning, you have to purchase the connectivity unit separately. Seating is a little cramped and shifting is stiff. For the bottom line, it's hard to believe that Triumph is new to this game. The TF250C shows all the earmarks of careful testing and thoughtful detailing. It's equally adept at racing and at trail riding. For what it's worth, it is the lightest and has the highest peak power number. Keep in mind that Triumph has an even more trail-oriented version called the TF250E. We have the Yamaha YZ250FX. Yamaha's 250FX and 250F motocross bikes are on the same page, but it's interesting to note that the YZ450F motocrosser was updated with a new frame for 2026, and that the 250s might get similar treatment in 2027. Like KTM, Yamaha has devoted a great deal of effort to providing off-road specific features for this bike. The FX has a 6-speed gearbox, a 2.0-gallon fuel tank, off-road suspension settings, off-road engine mapping, airbox baffling, a skid plate, an 18-inch rear wheel, and a kickstand. It does not have handguards or off-road specific tires. For strong points, the Yamaha has very aggressive throttle response down low. The suspension is geared for hard riding at fairly high speed. Engine tuning is possible at no extra cost via the Yamaha Power Tuner smartphone app. The rider position is spread out and relaxed, and 6th gear is an overdrive, which is good for trail riders. For weak points, the power delivery is jerky down low, making the low 1st gear hard to use. Overall steering is a little nervous, and the suspension is slightly stiff for tight trails. The gas tank is smallish and slow for refueling, plus it's difficult to see how much fuel you need. Even aftermarket tanks are awkwardly shaped because of the tank's location. The lack of handguards is a painful omission. Yamaha is loud, but it's not as loud as the MX version. The seat height is tall, despite the fact that the seat itself is fairly thin. In the end, Yamaha may have overthought this bike somewhat. The 6-speed gearbox is a great idea, but the power delivery limits its usefulness, especially in first gear. Trail riders might find the Yamaha WR250F is a more appropriate bike. Gear ratios are a very big deal for off-road bikes. In this test, we found that motocross gearboxes work well for racing, even if they are somewhat limited for general off-road riding. To help us analyze gear ratios, we mathematically worked out what each gear looks like in terms of speed. Keep in mind that this is calculated speed at 12,500 RPM, and that the bikes can't actually go this fast in top gear. It just lets you know how hard the engine is working. The numbers reveal that the 6 speeds of the KTM and the Yamaha are nearly identical. We wouldn't have guessed this because the Yamaha feels like it has a much taller sixth and a lower first. In both cases, sixth is just an overdrive, so you can lope along without buzzing the motor in transfer sections. When it was all over, we had to choose a winner, but it wasn't that hard. We all unanimously chose the KTM 250XCF. This is the complete package. It has the right power delivery, the right suspension, and even the right gearbox to be a race winner, whether it's in the woods back east or the desert out west. It's not surprising, really. KTM has been there and done that. The 250XCF's power advantage and overall handling have delivered a long string of successes in GNCC and in GPC racing. As a bonus, the KTM is a decent trail bike with a 6th gear that allows comfortable low-rev transitions between sections of hard single track. Second place goes to the Triumph TF250C. Man, these guys did their homework. We watched riders like Johnny Walker develop this bike in real time. It checks all the boxes from fuel range to power delivery to rider comfort. The TF250C was allowed to focus on racing and racing alone because Triumph has a separate model devoted to trail riding in the TF250E. As we've discovered with several other bikes in this group, the TF250C is a pleasant trail bike also. That's apparently second nature for any truly good running 250F. In third place, we have the Honda CRF250RX. We knew the Honda would have great off-road worthy low-end power because for years, the motocross version has been a secret favorite for off-road excursions. Honda also nailed the suspension and the handling, especially in tight confines. With a little more attention to off-road details like a more compact translucent tank, a hydraulic clutch, maybe a better kickstand and a bigger skid plate, the Honda is a real threat to win. Fourth place goes to the Kawasaki KX250X. Let's be honest, Kawasaki didn't invest much in the X line. The remarkable part is that the bike is still a very effective off-road racer. There was clearly a great deal of testing that went into the suspension, which is as good as any bike in the field. Kawasaki just left it to the end user to finish building the bike with aftermarket parts. Fifth place is the Yamaha YZ250FX. Yamaha was a favorite going into this test. Why not? We love the YZ250F motocross bike every year. As an off-road bike, that magic isn't quite as evident. The 6-speed gearbox was one of the mysteries. Despite having overall gear ratios almost identical to the KTM's, it was more of a handicap than an advantage. Most of the complaints here are easy to fix, especially with a tool like the Yamaha Power Tuner smartphone app. Like Triumph, Yamaha subdivides the off-road world by offering a more trail-oriented bike in the WR250F. You can learn more about these bikes at dirtbikemagazine.com or by picking up the May 2026 print edition of Dirtbike. We also will have more right here on YouTube, so come back or just keep an eye open on our social media platforms. I'm Ron Lawson. Thanks for watching.